sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
What up, it's your boy T-Bird here on the reaction. So, just did the rank for every Chucky and Child's Play movie, and like I said, the highest ranking one out of the original three will be the one I do the final kill count for Chucky, and it was at actually number one. And this actually is a surprise. It is the second Chucky, which is Child's Play 2, that made number one in the ranking, while Child's Play 1 was number 2, and surprisingly, Child's Play 3 was on the bottom as ranking number 7, right under Seed of Chucky. Well, I feel like Seed of Chucky should have been the bottom because they sucked. That sucked. Child's Play 3 I didn't think was that bad, but it's not my video. So, other than that, here is the kill count for Child's Play 2. And I doubt I'll look away. I'll still make it fair and call this a try not look away challenge regardless. Just in case I don't cheat. In case I happen to look away in a frightening way. Now look away just to touch something, I'm saying, because I know people won't try to count any kind of way for me to look away. So anyway, without further ado, here is Child's Play 2 kill count from Dead Meat. The movie came out in 1990 for those who don't follow Chucky that heavy. So let's get it.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're continuing the Chucky franchise with Child's Play 2, released in 1990. After the original film was such a box office success, it was clear that a sequel was going to get made. Universal Pictures bought the rights to the Chucky property, and writer Don Mancini returned to pen the follow-up to his Chucky doll creation. Mancini and David Kirshner would go on to write and produce, respectively, every movie in the franchise, which is rare for a long-running horror series, especially one with as many tonal changes as the Chucky movies. But the first sequel was very much in line with the original. It's mostly a straight horror film, with Chucky making a few quips here and there, and much of the film focused on the returning protagonist, Andy Barclay. The good thing is, we don't have to spend half the movie setting up Chucky as a killer doll, so he can jump right in and start killing right away. Speaking of which, let's get to him. The movie begins with a reassembly. They're putting Chucky back together, and for some reason, they're keeping the same underlying skeleton and just putting all new parts on over it. It's like that one philosophical question. If you take Abe Lincoln's hatchet and replace its head and later replace its handle, is it still Abe Lincoln's hatchet? Is this still our same psychopathic murder doll? Were you at philosophers? Anyway, this generic-looking CEO arrives and talks to his generic-looking toady about where we are in the series. Andy's mother is in a psychiatric ward and Andy's in foster care. And the reason they're recreating Chucky is to prove to stockholders that there's no problem with the doll and that they can go back to making money. While the technician is putting in the final touches, though, some kind of supernatural force electrocutes him and sends him through a window, giving us our first kill of the movie just 6 minutes into the film. I bet CEO guy is just happy he has one less paycheck to hand out that week. But he's still upset about how this looks and tells his toady Mattson to make it all go away, even micromanaging to tell Mattson exactly how to get rid of the doll.
Stick it up your ass.
Time to catch back up with Andy, played again by Alex Vincent, who's 2 years older but still a pretty cute kid. He's in foster care and is being window shopped by Joanne and Phil Simpson. Even though Phil is skeptical because of the whole, killer doll thing, they end up taking him home to this atrociously painted bubblegum house of horrors. Dear Lord, that looks like the single most uncomfortable place for an 8-year-old to be. Especially because Phil's such a stickler for rules.
First rule, don't touch the old stuff.
Andy meets his new foster sister Kyle, who dresses like she hangs out with Judy Funny. I'm actually really into the foster-sibling relationship in this movie because you don't usually see that in media. Andy's other new foster sibling is a good guy doll who drops onto his head from the top of his closet. Andy flees in terror, but Phil just uses the opportunity to lay down more rules.
Andy, rule number 2, no running in the house.
Yeah, hey Phil, maybe rule number 1 for you should be don't have good guy dolls booby-trapped in the closet to trigger your new foster child. Back at good guy headquarters, Mattson leaves work in the middle of a thunderstorm and throws Chucky in with the rest of the toys in his back seat. Might not want to get pulled over with all those little kid toys in your car, dude. Looks pretty weird. While he's stopping by a liquor store, Chucky grabs his car phone and calls the foster agency to find out where Andy is.
This is his Uncle Charles.
Foster place worker Grace Poole tells Chucky this information, and that seems real messed up, man, that anyone could call up a foster agency and get info on a little kid by using a shitty alias. After Mattson hits the road again, Chucky pulls a gun on him, and he reacts pretty nonchalantly.
Okay, what do you want?
Dude, there's a possessed doll holding a gun to your head, and you sound like you're answering a phone call from a friend you just hung up with. Chucky has him parked in an empty lot before taking a plastic bag and wrapping it around his head, strangling Mattson to death for our second kill 20 minutes in. That's twice in 2 movies that Chucky has attacked someone from the backseat of a car. Maybe they should have made that his thing throughout the series, but no, they went with shitty puns instead. Chucky first person runs his way to Andy's new home, where he bumps into his replacement.
Shut up, you idiot.
When your ex get a new man who looked just like you. Chucky busts open Tommy's face with that porcelain thing Andy was messing around with earlier, then buries his fellow good guy in the backyard, giving us a good look at the improved animatronics in this movie. And also how they use the top-down forced perspective to have a real person play Chucky, because that is definitely a person in a costume. The next morning, Phil's super pissed about his broken statue and grounds both the kids, giving them some together time, during which Andy shows how ex-core he is by taking a drag off Kyle's cigarette. Kyle commiserates with Andy how shitty it is to be a foster kid, a point that's driven home later when Andy overhears Phil talking shit about him in the kitchen. I love that somehow Phil doesn't notice Andy standing right freaking there with the door open. Just imagine yourself in Phil's position. It's very obvious that there's a kid standing behind that door. That night, Chucky gets straight to work, tying up Andy in bed and attempting to get some quality playtime in.
I got a new game, sport. It's called Hide the Soul.
Oh, that sounds fun. How do you play? Damn it, Chucky, that's the same game we played before. You just stuck a new name on it. Kyle comes home late and interrupts what certainly has to look like a strange situation to her. I bet you think Andy into some kinky shit. The ruckus wakes Phil and Joanne, and since Phil don't like to be roused like that, he angrily tosses Chucky down into the basement. This gives Chucky a nosebleed, meaning he'd better get to work on that little boy's body soon. Sorry, phrasing. The next day, Andy heads off to school, and Chucky hitches a ride underneath the bus. During recess, while Andy's busy with a rousing game of ball and fence, Chucky finds his homework assignment, vandalizing it so that later, when the teacher Miss Kettlewell is going through them, she gets a nice little personal message. She puts Andy in detention, and when she thinks he wants to play with Chucky, she throws Chucky in the closet.
It's been minutes I saw
locks Andy in the room, which is like a serious fire hazard lady. So when Chucky scares Andy through the closet peephole, Andy's unable to get out the door and is forced to climb out the window instead. He ain't having it. Kettlewell returns and thinks that the noises coming from the closet is Andy, so she goes to give him a good scolding, probably with a yardstick, judging by her lock-em-up methods of punishment. Chucky jumps out and stabs her with an air pump, injecting her with air, which I thought would, kill her, but it doesn't. Instead, Chucky gets to dish out some corporal punishment of his own.
Been very naughty, Miss Kettlewell.
He beats her to death with the yardstick for the third kill of the film in a pretty artistic way for a slasher sequel. Each strike of the yardstick pulling the camera out more and more. And you can still see the yardstick going up and down even in this furthest away shot. That's awesome. Phil gets more and more pissed about Andy's behavior, yelling to Joanne that he's not their child. So Kyle comforts Andy and tells him it'll make him stronger and it'll be okay. Andy tells her that's great and all, but he's got bigger problems going on.
It doesn't matter. Wherever I go, Chucky will find me.
That kind of thinking causes Andy to take matters into his own hands, grabbing an electric carver and going into the basement to take care of Chucky once and for all. I love watching this little kid stumble around with a sharp object. It both terrifies me and makes me go, aww. It also makes me laugh when he takes the thing to a bunch of clean linens. Chucky ends up getting the drop on him though, knocking him down and fighting with him until Andy's able to reach the carver and hit him with it in that big old head of his. Chucky runs away before Phil comes downstairs, real cautious about what he sees as an unstable little boy holding an electric knife. Chucky trips Phil on the stairs, causing him to fall through the cheap wooden banister, then gives us a one-liner in a nice understated delivery.
How's it hanging, Phil?
He drops Phil onto the floor, causing him to break his neck and die. No big deal, while they're waiting for the ambulance to arrive, at least the rest of the family can play a mean game of chess on his body. Phil's death causes Joanne to finally turn on Andy, so she packs his bag and sends him back to the foster home with Grace Poole, who you could argue is kind of responsible for all this shit in the first place. After tossing Chucky into the trash, Kyle goes for a midnight swing and smoke and kicks up enough dirt to uncover the broken body of the Tommy doll. Now that she knows Andy wasn't full of shit, she heads inside armed and cautious, only to hear some ominous sound design going on in Joanne's room.
Joanne?
She turns Joanne's body around to find her dead, her mouth gagged and her throat slit. Sure, it's an off-screen death, but I think the creepy sewing machine noises and the psycho-style body reveal make up for that. Chucky then attacks Kyle and rides around on her back for a little bit before she's able to hit him with a broken lamp and knock him away. He grabs her knife and trips her like a middle school bully, then takes her hostage so she can drive him to the foster agency so he can take over Andy's body. Her speeding gets her pulled over by a cop who's initially delighted by the sight of a good guy doll.
What's your name, buddy? Chucky.
Before he sees some blood coming out of Chucky's nose. That weirds him out enough to let them go, I guess, so Kyle's able to drive off again and eventually buckle herself up and slam on the brakes to throw Chucky through the windshield. She tries to crush him with her car, but he gets out of the way and takes her captive once more.
Playtime's over.
See, Chucky's cracking a few jokes in this one, but he's still mostly serious. Later in the series, these little quips are going to become his entire personality, so just be ready for that. Chucky and Kyle wind up at the foster agency, where Grace takes them and Andy into her office. Before she can yell at the kids for pulling the fire alarm, though, Chucky whips out a knife and stabs her in the chest a bunch of times, knocking her onto the photocopier, where her death face gets captured and printed. Yo, I heard you like Dead Grace Face, so we put Dead Grace Face on your Dead Grace Face! As fire trucks respond to the alarm that Chucky pulled, he takes advantage of the chaos to get Andy in the back of a truck, which, why is this newspaper truck driving driving through the streets with its freaking back door open. Them papers would be all over those streets, man. Chucky tries to play hide the soul in the back of the truck, but Kyle gets the driver to pull over. Chucky and Andy take off, and Kyle escapes the super pissed off driver to chase them into the good guy factory, doing a neat little action hero roll underneath the closing gate. The final act takes place in the factory, and I think it's a great freaking setting for the film's climax. Even if it is kind of lame when Chucky knocks Andy out with a tiny little plastic judo chop, Chucky still got that incantation infatuation and gets to work saying them creepy words and bringing in the storm clouds.
Adi, Dewey, Dembella, give me the power, I beg of you.
He actually completes the ritual, but apparently it's too late. He's been in the good guy body for too long, and now it looks as though he's stuck in it. Kyle knocks a bunch of boxes onto Chucky, and Andy runs away, meeting back up with Kyle where they both confirm each other's names. With that settled, they run through a maze of good guy boxes that I'm sure some poor production assistant had to make and stack before making their way out and climbing up one of those roller slide things that were always at DZ Discovery Zone. Andy friggin' sucks at it though, no big deal, those things were always difficult to climb. And Chucky pops up to knife his way up the slide in an attempt to catch Andy and kill him. Kyle traps his hand under a gate and Chucky goes full Aaron Ralston to get out, pulling his hand off in a shot with some nice dog. Then he gives himself a sort of Ash Williams upgrade, outfitting the knife blade as his new hand. With the assembly line all sorts of fucked up, a technician finally takes notice. Hey yeah, dude, where were you when a couple of kids broke in and got chased by an evil doll? When he comes to fix the machine, he sets himself up for a very memorable kill. Chucky slashes him with his knife, knocking him down onto the assembly line, where a pair of good guy eyes are implanted into his skull. It's unique, bloody, and comical all at once, and is literally the only thing I remembered from this movie until I rewatched it for the kill count. When Chucky goes to attack the Foster siblings, Kyle knocks him back and stitches him to a platform that takes him up into a little assembly box thing where a bunch of limbs are inserted, and Chucky screams his lungs out until eventually it spits out a melted heap of Chucky parts and gore. But as the kids walk away, they don't notice the trail of blood showing that Chucky escaped that little box, so he's able to catch them unawares and knock Kyle down with the technician's ghastly looking body, then wheel his way over to Andy for some good guy fun time stab around. His knife arm gets caught in a grate though, so Andy turns a wrench and causes a lethal amount of molten plastic to spray out, engulfing Chucky and melting him to the floor while a nasty looking hose wiggles about, looking like it's straight out of the dog kennel scene in The Thing. After Andy saves Kyle and they go and check on the Chucky heap though, he comes back to life to attack them some more because that's what he does. Kyle sticks that air hose in his mouth to inflate him like the bad guy in Live and Let Die. His head gets super huge before finally blowing up in spectacular fashion.
It was like Akka right there.
Decapitated bloody plastic mound, Chucky is finally dead in this movie, our 8th and final victim. The movie ends with Kyle and Andy walking off together to no place in particular as the credits start to roll. Sequels usually end up increasing the body count over the original. Did Chucky play by the rules? Let's find out and get to the numbers. Counting Chucky, 8 people die in Child's Play 2, which is 2 more than in the original. Of those 8, 5 of the victims were male and 3 were female, a more even gender distribution than we had last time. At a runtime of 83 minutes, that comes out to a kill on average every 10.38 minutes, a bit quicker than in Child's Play 1. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to the good guy factory technician. The image of that dude with his eyes replaced literally stuck with me my entire life, and it probably always will. I love it. Doll Machete for lamest kill will have to go to Phil Simpson. Should have made it a house rule, Phil, no falling off the stairs and breaking your neck. And that's it. Child's Play 2 was released 2 years after the original, and Universal was so eager for sequels that the third movie came out just 9 months after this one. I'm actually going to pause this franchise for a second, though, to do the mini-series for Stephen King's It, in honor of the new movie coming out. That's next week, and until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
So, yeah, that they was lying when that rank the every Chucky movie rank that they talking about how that quick that was made though. You know, I still don't think it should have been number 7. At least it should have been over See It Chucky and possibly even over Bride Chucky too. I can at least see it being under Curse and Colt, but yeah, fun memory watching this again though, for real. Because like I said, I watched the original 3 faithfully though. It's like the other ones I didn't really care too much about. Now I see why. Well, except for Curse, the Curse would have been a cool one to watch. I did watch Cult before. I did a lot of eyes turning and head turning on that one, but I made it through the kill count reaction on this. So that is the end of the Chucky series, and I can finally get on to the new third batch. I'm not gonna pull another poll out till I get finished this one, and possibly thinking about it. Not sure I'm going to do it, but I may do a reaction to the Saw series. And any other interruption kill count might do is probably gonna react to a Lovecraft movie on during St. Patty's Week, which I might have to do a poll on which one should I do. So Either way, if the only one I can't do is the one I already added to the I already did it as a kill count already. I think it was Love Count Return. I think it was. Anyway, yeah. So if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bear signing off. One love.